West Africa Democracy Radio
94.9 FM.
Dakar, Senegal. It's you speaking.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Ghana's defense and environment ministers die in tragic helicopter crash.
Government regrets to announce the demise of the following persons in the tragic crash: Dr. Edward Kofi Omane-Boamah, Minister for Defense; Alhaji Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, MP, Minister for Environment, Science and Technology; Flying Officer Manin Chum Ampedu.
Ivorian civil society organizations mobilize for peaceful presidential election comes October this year. Residents of Plateau State, North Central Nigeria commend WADR's security project in promoting dialogue and awareness.
What WADR did was just exactly what you would expect. If you don't have first-hand information about the plight of those that have been affected by these insecurities, especially women and children, you cannot speak about it.
Chadian opposition leader Masra appears in court on charges of inciting intercommunal violence. Details of these stories and more are coming up shortly.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Thank you for joining our broadcast. This edition begins with a sad development from Ghana as the country is mourning the tragic loss of its Minister for Defense, Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, the Minister for Environment, Alhaji Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, and 6 others in a military helicopter crash. The incident occurred during the morning hours of this Wednesday, August 6, near the Adansi area in the Ashanti region. It involved a Ghanaian Air Force Z-9 helicopter en route from Accra to Abuasi, which lost contact with rather shortly after takeoff at 9 a.m. GMT. The Ghana Armed Forces had earlier announced the disappearance of the helicopter, which had 5 passengers and 3 crew members on board. Following a search and rescue operation, it was later confirmed that the aircraft had crashed and that all on board had died. At a press briefing, Chief of Staff Julius Deborah described the crash as a national tragedy and directed for flags to fly at half-mast at the directive of President John Dramani Mahama.
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, who is with us here, and the government of Ghana. I have the unpleasant duty, sadly, to announce a national tragedy involving the crash of a military helicopter this morning around the Adansi area in Ashanti region. Government regrets to announce the demise of the following persons in the tragic crash: Dr. Edward Kofi Omane-Boamah, Minister for Defense; Alhaji Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, MP, Minister for Environment, Science and Technology; Alhaji Muniru Mohammed Lemona, Acting Deputy National Security Coordinator and former Minister for Food and Agriculture; Dr. Samuel Sapon, Vice Chairman of the National Democratic Congress; and Mr. Samuel Abuaji, a former parliamentary candidate; Squadron Leader Peter Bafemi Anala; Flying Officer Manin Chum Ampedu; and Sergeant Ernest Ado Mensah. The President and government extends our condolences and sympathies to the families of our comrades and the servicemen who died in service to the country. All flags are to fly at half-mast until further notice. Thank you.
Ghana's President Mahama's Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, In addition to the two ministers, the fatalities involved Alhaji Manuru Mohammed, Acting Deputy National Security Coordinator, Dr. Samuel Sapon, Vice Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, Samuel Abuake, former parliamentary candidate, Squadron Leader Peter, Flying Officer Twom Apadu, and Sergeant Ernest Adu. Elsewhere in Togo, civil society organizations are organizing another peaceful march for this Saturday, August 9, in the capital, Lomé. These citizen groups aim to pay tribute to those who lost their lives during the crackdown on anti-government protesters in last June. The 3-day demonstrations in Lomé last June saw many young people rallying against the current government and the continued leadership of Front Nassingme. Sankule Janko has the details in this report.
After 2 unsuccessful attempts to secure permission for a march, civil society organizations in Togo have submitted a new request to organize a citizen march on August 9. This peaceful demonstration aims to honor the victims of the June protests against the current government, which were met with repression. For this new request, the organizers have proposed a different route. According to the organizers, the planned march is scheduled to begin at 11 a.m. in Lomé and other parts of the country. The organizers promise that this new demonstration will be a peaceful and inclusive process open to all members of society. They view the march as a tribute to both well-known and unknown victims and a call for social cohesion and respect for human life. As a reminder, from June 28 to 29, thousands took to the streets of Lomé to protest constitutional reforms that enable Faure Gnassingbé, President of the Council of Ministers, to remain in power. Those demonstrations resulted to the death of more than 5 people and the arrest of at least 60 protesters.
A report from WADR's correspondent Sylvie Ouedraogo in Lomé, voiced by Sankule Janko. Meanwhile, in Côte d'Ivoire, nearly 40 civil society organizations are mobilizing for a peaceful election next October. These civic organizations intend to advocate for this outcome with candidates and political parties. Christophe Kwame is president of Service Côte d'Ivoire, one of the signatory organizations of this commitment for a peaceful presidential election in Côte d'Ivoire.
Il y a plusieurs ingrédients qui nous montrent un risque.
There are several ingredients that show us a risk of public health problems, a risk of confrontation of several sides, because in the analysis of current facts, several candidates that people call dinosaurs are not on the electoral list, and some candidates have not even been allowed to advance. So for us, after analyzing the situation, the question is that we get involved and that we can produce intellectual documents and that we can make pleas to the effect of mitigating, if not annihilating, the situation. We have already heard in the sense that the major actors speaking about political parties, some were present, some were represented. So we think that in any crisis situation, when we analyze it, people get on the polls, people express their need for people to intervene, neutral people who can speak in any case, and that's the role we want to play. But already we have heard that some parties have arrived, some have been represented, and others are neutral people who can speak in any case, and others are waiting for the conclusions of our work.
Certains se sont fait représenter et les autres attendent les conclusions de nos travaux.
Christophe Kwame is president of Service Côte d'Ivoire.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
On the diplomatic front, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko is on a 5-day mission in Turkey to boost growing bilateral cooperation. Sonko's trip is at the invitation of Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. According to a statement from the Prime Minister's office, the mission is part of the strategy to relaunch Senegal's economic diplomacy in line with the Vision Senegal 2050 recently presented by the new government. Abdullahi Hassan has more in this report.
The Senegalese presidency says Ousmane Sonko's 5-day working visit to Turkey is strategic and above all economically beneficial. Before Sonko's visit to Turkey, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye had made an official visit to the country late last year to consolidate diplomatic relations between the two nations first established in 1962. Ousmane Sonko's engagement with the Turkish president therefore aims to strengthen bilateral ties and explore sectors of expansion including water, forestry, defense and civil protection. Already, Dakar and Ankara enjoy expertise in health, tourism, aviation, education, marine resource management and security cooperation. The Senegalese-Turkish cooperation has resulted in several major infrastructure projects in Senegal, such as the Abdou Diouf International Conference Center in Diamniadio, funded to the tune of 32 billion CFA francs by Turkey. Others are the completion of the Blaise Diagne International Airport, the Diamniadio National Interest Market, and the Dakar Arena Complex. Ousmane Sonko's trip follows his recent engagement with China's Xi Jinping, which he assures will boost trade and support the government's economic recovery plan.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. Stay with us as Professor Fallou Sam, chair of the Institute for Trade Policy Studies in Africa, joins later for an assessment of Senegal's recent international engagement and their impact on the local economy. In more diplomatic issues, the chairperson of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, President Julius Maada Bio, is calling for increased diplomatic efforts to reconcile the sub-regional organization and the AES Confederation. President Bio, who is also president of Sierra Leone, made the call on Tuesday during his engagement with an ECOWAS delegation led by the Commission President, Dr. Omar Alieu Touré. Dr. Touré arrived in Sierra Leone to provide an update on the political situation in several member states and on issues related to the Community Development Tax. Christopher Aticho reports.
The ECOWAS Commission President and his team are visiting Sierra Leone, home of the new chairperson, 6 weeks after Bio assumed chairmanship of the organization. Julius Maada Bio, who inherited office with a plethora of issues, from political instability to worsening security situation in several member countries, encouraged dialogue and fostering cooperation with the AES member states as they finalized their withdrawal from ECOWAS in September. Bio stated that building a stronger relationship with ECOWAS and the AES is fundamental to promoting trade, free movement and strengthening peace and security in the region. Recall that during the Abuja summit on June 22, a ministerial committee was established to politically and technically oversee the exit of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger from the bloc. It should be noted that an earlier meeting was held in Bamako on May 22 between the ECOWAS Commission and the foreign ministers of the AES about the future of security and economic cooperation. For his part, Dr. Omar Alieu Touré provided an update on the political situation in several member states and on issues related to the Community Development Tax (CDT). The president of the ECOWAS Commission also assured that an assessment mission will soon be deployed to Sierra Leone and Guinea to help resolve the Yenga border dispute between the two countries.
Christopher, a teacher reporting there, crossing over to the Central Sahel region, particularly Niger, where Transitional President General Abdurrahman Chiani is holding discussions with his Chaldean counterpart, President Mahamat Idris Deby Itno. Deby arrives in Niger this Wednesday for a working visit focused on bilateral cooperation and the Sahelian solidarity. The Chadian presidency, in a statement, disclosed that the president's trip is also in continuation of the diplomatic talks since the start of the Nigerian transition in July 2023 after the military coup. You are still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's defense and environment ministers died in tragic helicopter crash. Ivorian civil society organizations mobilized for peaceful presidential election camps October. Residents of Plateau State in north-central Nigeria commend WADR's security project in promoting dialogue and awareness. Still ahead in the news, we have the Nigerian government, where residents of Plateau State are commending WADR's security program for peace and dialogue. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's turn to Nigeria now, where listeners of the radio program in the Sahel have commended its role in promoting dialogue and awareness around security issues affecting communities in the country. The program, produced by West Africa Democracy Radio with support from the Open Society Foundation, OSIWA, was the focus of an evaluation mission in Jos Plateau State, Nigeria. WADR's Usman Umar was there and now reports.
For 86 consecutive weeks, the voices of communities from Mali to Burkina Faso, from Niger to Nigeria, echoed across the airwaves through In the Sahel, a radio program aimed at shaping an African-led narrative on insecurity and resilience in the region, with production based in Dakar in English and French and translation into local languages. In the Sahel reached deep into rural and urban audiences via partner community radio stations, including KTFM in Jos, Plateau State, North Central Nigeria. During the evaluation mission to KTFM, listeners engaged in honest feedback sessions, praising the program's rich content, relatable voices, and relevance to everyday security challenges.
I can remember exactly there was this topic that was treated about the experiences of those that were affected by the insecurity, especially women and children. And I can say categorically that that particular topic stood top for me, because what WADR did was just exactly what you would expect. If you don't have first-hand information about the plight of those that have been affected by these insecurities, you cannot speak about it.
But they also offered constructive suggestions to improve the impact of future programming.
I must commend you. Your Hausa is deep. If maybe there's a way to lighten, because some words, like I'll have to ask, please, what is he saying? Yes, so, and most people, they don't really, they're like me, that don't know how to speak or Hausa very well. So if there's a way it can be in maybe like vernacular, broken, pidgin, to go a long way.
I'm recommending that let's have the listeners to interact, maybe a phone in and so on and so forth.
The evaluation forms part of a broader effort by West Africa Democracy Radio to measure how regional media initiatives like In the Sahel are influencing public dialogue and building community resilience against conflicts and insecurity. For Newslink, Usman Umar, reporting from Jos, North Central Nigeria.
We now leave the West African sub-region. In Chad, political concerns and criticisms are trailing the opposition figure Success Masra's interrogation by the state as he faces charges related to the Mandakau violence in the country. The charges include disseminating racist and xenophobic messages via the computer, criminal conspiracy, murder, and complicity. Masra, who is also former transitional prime minister, appeared before the criminal division of the N'Djamena Court of Appeal this Wednesday, August 6, as part of ongoing investigation against him. Imo Edit completes the story.
The ongoing legal investigation against Success Masra stems from a decision made on July 30 by the N'Djamena Indictment Chamber, which referred the opposition leader to the criminal chamber. This judicial proceedings occur in a tense political climate as Masra, who recently returned to the opposition after serving as the transitional prime minister, is advocating for democratic reforms. Many observers are concerned that these proceedings could further escalate tensions between the government and the opposition. His arrest was announced shortly after violent intercommunal clashes on May 14, 2025 in the village of Mandakau, located in Logon Occidental, which officially resulted in 76 deaths. The public prosecutor stated that Masra faces charges of incitement to hatred, revolt, forming and complicity with armed gangs, complicity in murder, arson, and desecration of graves. As his trial begins this Wednesday, the Supreme Court in N'Djamena is under tight security. His lawyer, Said Larifu, has condemned the proceedings as devoid of material evidence or credible testimony and lacking any serious legal basis. While journalists are systematically barred from covering the case, political actors and civil society groups are calling for Mazra's release to help maintain social peace.
In more added fight that report, elsewhere in Cameroon, the Constitutional Council has thrown out an appeal filed by the country's opposition politician Maurice Kamto. The court's decision on Tuesday upheld that Kamto's candidacy for the October presidential election is invalid. The Electoral Commission of Cameroon in July rejected the politician's application as a presidential candidate in the upcoming ballot due to multiple nominations. Francis Boniface tells us more.
The ruling by Cameroon's Constitutional Council officially puts an end to Maurice Kamto's presidential ambition in the 2025 election. The court on Tuesday backed the Electoral Commission of Cameroon's decision of July 26 that disqualifies Kamto for multiple nominations. Denouncing the unanimous verdict, Hippolyte Melitia Kouan, lawyer for the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, MRC, believes that the decision is politically motivated. The opposition politician had run under the banner of Mandem, which was deemed contrary to the provisions of the Electoral Code, which requires a single nomination. Maurice Kamto's disqualification from the electoral process ahead of the 2025 presidential vote has sparked nationwide criticism. While Kamto, the main challenger of Paul Biya in the 2018 election, is sidelined, 13 candidacies have been validated. Biya, 92, is contesting in the race as he seeks an 8th mandate under a tense regional political climate. CSOs and opposition political parties have continued to call on the Electoral Commission to ensure free, fair and inclusive polls on October 12, 2025.
Francis Boniface with that report.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this evening is Professor Falu Samb, chair of the Institute for Trade Policy Studies in Africa. He joins us for an assessment of Senegal's recent international engagements and their impact on the local economy. And this comes as Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko embarks on a 5-day working visit to Turkey, before which he met with China's Xi Jinping. Professor Sam shares insights on the opportunities as well as the gaps in these dealings for Senegal as it struggles to rebuild despite having a heavy debt profile and a high cost of living crisis.
Number one is that it's part of bilateral relation between Senegal and Turkey. The government of Turkey, since the tenure of Mr. Macky Sall, the former president, have made huge investment in Senegal and has a really big stake in Senegal economy, and those relations have been continued, of course, in terms of continuity of the states of government, but also to be strengthened and amplified in a way that really would be beneficial to both countries. So on a bilateral basis, this is something that really is fully well taken in that way. The visit for Prime Minister Sonko to Turkey can be also placed in an other geostrategic situation, which is the situation in Gaza, in Israel. Because both countries are part of the Organization of Islamic Countries. Both countries are vehemently condemning what's happening in Gaza.
The Prime Minister was in China some few months ago and currently in Turkey. And we want to find out that how strategically are these international visits by the Prime Minister important to Senegal at the back of the Prime Minister launching the economic recovery plan as part of the Senegal 2050 agenda?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I guess once again, the overall picture is something that is deeply rooted in two elements, and which is also rooted now in this new element, which is the recovery plan. The two elements that are constituting like the roots for this is a personal one for the Prime Minister. Remember, he is the leader of the party. The president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, is no longer the chair of the party. Mr. Sonko is the chair of the party. And as a chair of the party and as an individual, he has well-rooted credence and well-rooted opinions in regional integration, in sovereignty.
Again, I would want to find out that how should Senegal be mindful to protect its sovereignty so it's not exploited in global trade as it is currently engaging with more of these international partners, as again these countries are also interested in Senegal's extractive sector?
Yeah, before going to the kind of extractive sector, and you mentioned it earlier, all of this also is to be placed within the recovery plan that he presented last Friday. And from these, of course, the plan or himself did not expect the majority of the fund to be from FDI, foreign direct investment, but rather from domestic mobilization of funds. But you will see that in the face of Senegal being part of the club of extractive industry in terms of gas, in terms of oil, this is showcasing Senegal as a privileged destination for FDI, as a partner, but an equal partner in terms of sovereignty, in terms of resources to the rest of the world.
He is Professor Fallou Sam, the chair of the Institute for Trade Policy Studies in Africa. And here comes Sankule, the sportive junko, with the latest in the world of sports. And I'm certainly sure he will begin with the CHAN qualification or tournaments ongoing right now.
Of course, the CHAN Africa Cup of Nations, of course, Pamoja tournament. Obviously, that's what I'm starting. Currently happening in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And talking about that, let's begin with Burkina Faso because they have reignited their CHAN 2024 hopes with a commanding 4-2 victory over tournament debutant Central African Republic at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam. In the early fixtures today, Wednesday, following a poor start against host Tanzania, the Stallions bounced back with a dominant second half performance, including 2 penalties and a standard penalty displays from Patrick Malo and Abdul Bagun. The result now means Burkina Faso's quarterfinal hopes are alive in Group B, while CAR marked their CHAN debut with a spirited but tough loss. Meanwhile, hosts Tanzania and Mauritania are currently playing at the Benjamin Mkapa National Stadium in crucial Group B encounter at CHAN 2024 tournament. The scores as we speak at the moment, it's goalless. Hopefully we'll bring you up to date in the subsequent news bulletin. But let's shift our attention now to volleyball, interestingly. Because in beach volleyball, Gambia's under-18 duo Esa Kani and Abdoulaye Ba have stunned host Nigeria with a dramatic semi-final victory at the Continental Cup currently ongoing in Abuja. After losing first set 21-15, the young Gambians fought back with a strong second half set win 21-14 before sealing the match 15-12 in a tense final set in Abuja. Their performance not only booked their place in the final but also marked a major milestone in Gambia's rising presence on continental beach volleyball stage. Imagine beating Nigeria in Abuja. That is not easy. And it also happened in the CHAN yesterday when Senegal defeated Nigeria. What do you make of that? Quickly, just a snippet. Please, I'm not going to be part of the banter. You are sports. No, I'm not going to be Yes, I love football, I love sport, but I'm not going to be part of the banter. Is it because you are seated in a studio that is located in Senegal? Oh no, I support Senegal. Senegal beat Nigeria, remember? It is Senegal who beat Nigeria. Nigeria lost to Senegal. Yes. I'm half Senegalese, so I'm excited. I'm so Abdullah and Imo will not be happy about that, but I'm super excited. Let me leave you right there. Thank you, Sankule, for the sports. And that's it on this edition of Newslink here in West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Sheikh Njai for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.